but I really love blue and yellow.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, so it's
exactly.
kind of hard for me to kind of go with somebody else if I may feel a certain way.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Legal Soft Podcast. I'm joined by my good friend Jordan. We're going to deep dive on what branding means for law firms. Jordan, what do you do here at Legal Soft?
First of all, Cam, I really appreciate you for having me on. I just came onto the LegalSoft team. I'm actually the campaign manager, so I'm heading all the internal campaigns, bringing more leads in and, helping the clients get more cases. At the end of the day, that's what they're looking for, and we're here to help do that.
Right,
So I
right.
appreciate you having me on.
No, of course, yeah. I think it's going to be really interesting what we get into talking about. I think
Hmm.
there's a lot of aspects to branding that lawyers just don't know about. I
Yes.
mean, and I think that branding advice also goes across other industries too,
Well,
not just the legal
well,
industry.
branding is your story.
Yeah,
Branding is you, the vision behind it. So like your why you're doing this.
right.
At the end of the day, a lot of people are doing a lot of the same things. It could be clothing, it can be practicing legal, whatever it could be. They're doing a lot of that, but they don't really have that purpose behind it, that story, and that's really
Yeah.
your brand. That's
No,
the vision.
totally. Yeah, I think especially Gen Z when we're seeing like trends,
Yes.
there's so many trends right now that are just we're moving into a direction of Gen Z buying because Gen Z buying either a product or a service because of the story, not
Mm,
necessarily anything else, just the story. I mean, look at I think Lush would be kind of an interesting example of that because
really,
their product is subpar. It's a subpar product,
I
but
agree.
their story is like vegan, vegetarian. They don't
Hmm.
test on animals and all these things, and the why behind it is pretty big with Lush. I
Right.
think.
But I mean, at the end of the day, that's a lot of products, though. A lot of products are,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say every product because some people actually put a lot of work into their product, the process or what it is.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, the brand is what sells it.
Yeah. No.
The
Exactly.
the trust, like when you have a brand that somebody knows or somebody can talk about, it's the trust behind it. So that's really what branding is. And, your whole marketing scheme and project has to be behind the brand.
Right.
You have to go on that mission. That's why the mission statement is so important, and then for the customer to actually understand the statement. So, like you were saying with Gen Z, a lot of things are coming from overseas, or they don't really know where it's coming from. They just kind of seeing it as a video.
Yeah.
But I have a old soul, I'll say. So I'm always looking at the branding. I'm looking at what they stand for, like how they treat their employees, where their products made. When you see something made in the U.S., you're kind of more keen to paying more for it. You see the
Yeah.
quality there. So it's just different aspects that you really see from the brands.
We have a client which is super interesting that is an immigrant himself, and now he's an immigration attorney, and like
That's awesome.
but he doesn't dive into that. He doesn't talk about that.
See, that's the
You know?
story. Yeah, you got to like he would get more cases and retain more people if they knew his story because they would just relate.
Yeah,
A lot
no,
of people
exactly.
they love to relate. Like that's why people love Drake. I'll
Yeah,
just be honest with you.
that's why they love Drake.
People love Drake because they can relate to him. Like a lot of people, if you listen to like any other hip hop or even like rock or alternative,
Yeah,
when they're hearing these lyrics, they can't really relate to them, but they like the music. They get their head bobbing. But Drake, you can get a good beat
yeah,
and you can actually relate to what he's saying. You're like, oh, okay, I might have went through this before, or this is something that I was just dealing with yesterday.
yeah,
So it's
yeah, yeah.
very relatable. So again, branding. That's why they
It,
say he's
it
so
is
easy
branding.
to like adapt to.
I mean, Drake started out as the handicapped kid in
Yep.
Degrassi,
Yep.
the like Canadian dork, and
Mm-hmm.
now he's like a superstar. I
Right.
mean, that is what it comes down to branding, and I think that's available for lawyers too, right?
Absolutely.
So, when you're starting out your business, your law firm, like at what point do you need to start thinking about branding? Because a lot of firms that I talk to, at least, they're like, oh, well, we'll get the website up right away.
Mm-hmm.
Just throw some generic, logo up and just run it. Have it working, and then eventually we'll do the branding, and then that never happens. So, at what point in that journey do you think brand development should be a key aspect of law firms?
Well, I mean, I don't know how it feels to be a lawyer, but I know they go through a big process of just
Yeah,
becoming a lawyer. So, of course, you're going to have those antsy and excitement to just, be a lawyer and
yeah,
just handle cases and do the whole nine. But personally, I think it's important off the rip because you're building that foundation. You're building like the status quo of like who you are as a lawyer. So, once you build that brand around it, when it comes to logos, keeping it clean, you know, when it comes to your voice, like actually speaking from your voice and not trying to be like a chat GPT or like something that's
Yeah.
not authentic, you know. So building the brand, I think personally immediately, but I'm a marketing person. So at the
Hmm.
end of the day, I'm always going to lean on the brand because the brand is your longevity. When you're not here, that brand that you built is still here,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So
And
for
it has to do with reputation. You touched on something that I think is super important. You had mentioned authenticity.
mhm.
Like, how is authenticity change the market now that we're looking at? When we're looking at early days of like social media or websites, design, things like that, versus now when it comes to authenticity.
Well, first, I mean, from a lawyer standpoint, there's a lot of people. Let me back up. There's a lot of people that actually are like entrepreneurs, and everybody's an actress, so you really don't understand how to like trust them. When it comes to being
Right.
a lawyer, you can't like fake that. You actually like have to, you know, go through the bar. You have to go through these processes to become a lawyer.
Hmm.
So when it comes to building that brand, you can just, you know, go off of your story, kind of like we were just saying, like people don't understand like the hardest process to becoming a lawyer. So once they actually understand, okay, I went through this process, they see what you've done, they seen the hard work you put behind it, and then they see the brand. It's a trust thing. It's reputation. So then they feel more authentic because they're telling their story rather than just telling you what you want to hear. If that makes
Right.
sense, you know.
Right. That makes total sense. And I've spoken with a couple clients too, and we're talking about like social media and how important that is for law firms.
Mm-hmm.
And I will literally tell the client, I'm like, the goal of social media is not for them to go, oh, I'm going to call ABC Law Firm. I'm going to call them. You know, I've seen their videos. I'm going to call ABC Law Firm. They
Right.
don't. They go, I'm going to call John at ABC Law Firm.
This
I'm
is
going to
true.
call Sally. I'm going to call, it's the specific person.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the law firm as a whole,
Right.
right? Build that connection, I think, through that authenticity. They build that connection with the person,
It's like a
you
personal
know.
connection. It's
No,
like
totally.
we're
Yeah.
friends, you know? Like that's
Yep.
the thing with social media is like you could take two aspects on it too. You can be the influencer that posts a lot or you can be the person that just posts authentic content and
Hmm.
then let me feel like I'm a part of your family or I'm a part of your community. Once I feel
Yeah.
like that, I'm going to call you all day and night.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's the trust that I was looking to build because again, you see so much on social media. Everybody has a voice now. Why do I trust you? So
Yeah.
that goes back to the why. That goes back to the purpose. So
Right.
kind of speaking back on your question about like when you start a brand, like this is being a lawyer. Why are you a lawyer? Why did you want to go into this? And then once somebody sees the why, they're like, oh, I can relate again.
Yeah.
You know, so now I'm going to trust you to handle my case because I saw you. You're speaking the same language as me, and we're almost family because I've been following you for 2 years and you've been giving me great content, you know?
Right. Right. And it's stuff that people can enjoy.
Exactly.
Now, how do you find that why? I think I've spoken with business owners, not
Yeah.
necessarily lawyers, but business owners. They don't sit down and take the time to do that. How do you find the why?
That's $1 million question. To
It's
be
yeah.
honest with you, I mean, some people have to go through some things to find a why. Some
Hmm.
people have to develop a strategy that didn't work, and then you're saying, "Oh, okay, this is why I'm doing this." From personal experience, I've had to go through some things like where I've, you know, lost interest in things, and I'm like, "Why have I lost interest?" Because really, I didn't have a passion behind it. I didn't have a why behind it.
Right.
So once I started something that I had a why behind, now it just made me go those times when I didn't feel like doing it. You know, it keeps the
Hmm.
motivation going. I mean, every day you wake up, you're not going to want to go to work. Every day you're not going to want to go build this brand, especially if you're not seeing any type of return on it because, you know, we're doing a lot of these things for money and you can only do so much for money before you burn out. Now, if
Yeah.
you have a why and some purpose and some motivation behind it, you can just keep going. You know, if it's a family, if it's a, you know, I want to break a curse, generational curse, or whatever it could be, you know, you want to, you know, keep going. So,
Yeah, no, that I mean that makes total sense. I think that's super important is taking the time for that in to be to discover the why, right?
agreed.
I think there's a lot of lawyers that as soon as they graduate law school, they just go straight into practicing. They
Mm,
don't think about like what their image says or what their name is like or what anything. They just want to go straight to practicing. And I think that's in this age of where we're talking like digital marketing and 90% of things are digital.
right.
I think we're running into this scenario where the gun is just being jumped,
Yeah.
you know, and then before you know it, you have this reputation as one brand, and then you have to rebrand as something else entirely. What's that? what is the process of rebranding? Because like once you're a lawyer, you have your website up. It's got whatever you got
Hmm.
the scales of justice on there, like every lawyer logo ever.
Right.
And once you have that established, how do you rebrand and still maintain the same audience that you had before?
That's gonna go back to your trust, man. It's just that's how good of work you've done and the testimonials and the reviews that you've gotten for previous clients because a lot of people do go through rebrands and
Hmm.
they will still have their community follow them. They might even encourage them more after the rebrand because, they could have been bad PR. I don't know whatever the
Yeah.
rebrand, could have came from because a lot of people like to keep that consistent branding
Hmm.
because you don't want to lose that audience. But if you do have to go through that rebrand, it's a key to have that like audience. You have to have that community that kind of sticks around you.
Right.
And then again, having your why because that rebrand could be like very daunting. You can
Yeah.
be like,
Yeah.
oh, I have to really start from the ground up. I worked so hard to get here, and then now I'm at the bottom. But
Right.
that just gives you your fight, and that's your why.
And it's a lot of money for a rebrand too,
Oh yeah.
which doesn't give you returns. You
No.
don't see physical returns. It's not like going to the store buying some eggs.
Right,
You
right.
don't get something for your money with a brand
Correct.
or a rebrand because it's kind of next level.
But you get longevity.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that like, you got to know if do you want the money or do you want the longevity? Because a lot of people, especially Gen Z now, we go for a lot of quick things. We go for like we want it now, and that's
Hmm.
kind of I don't know how it's going to be in the like lawyer legal culture,
Hmm.
but as Gen Z comes up, like they're going to want things done now.
Yeah.
Just random example, maybe a case might take 3 months to get done with, and they're like, I want it done now so I can get my settlement, or am I doing this to actually help my client get to where they need to get to, and the longevity behind it, because knowing my reputation is going to be great because I stuck it out, made sure they got everything taken care of.
Right.
If that makes sense.
No, that does make sense. I was speaking with this client the other day. There was a truck driving accident
Mm-hmm.
and there was nobody else on the road. One of his tires popped and he ended up hurt real bad. And the truck driving company's like, well, there was nobody else on the road. Insurance company's like, no, nothing we can do,
Mm-hmm.
because there was nobody else on the road. They said he might have fallen asleep at the wheel. All these things that just weren't true. The lawyer went the extra mile and they actually went after the tire manufacturer and found
Wow.
that there was a defect in that year of tires that he got the tire in that batch that he got the tire of,
Wow.
and were able to sue him. I think they got like something like a couple million, yeah,
Couple
from the
million
tire
from that.
manufacturer. Yeah, isn't that insane?
That's insane.
Yeah, but like that next level, he told me it took him like a long time
Oh, I'm sure.
in order to get that settlement. But my point in saying that is that I asked this lawyer, I was like, did you get a testimonial from the guy? Do you still talk to him? Like
Right.
you need those things for your socials. You need those
Absolutely.
things for your brand. Nothing. He didn't get anything from
Because
him.
at the end of the day, they're just looking to lawyer.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that, like again, when you became a lawyer and you went through this strenuous process of becoming a lawyer, that's all you're looking to do. So
Hmm.
then that's where it does come into like someone like us that can help out and just, manage these socials for them or at least just give them tips and strategies of, hey, this is why you need to do this. This is why you need to do that because, and it actually just explaining how like longevity it is, because
Yeah.
thinking about SEO, for example, SEO is something that a lot of people really don't understand and they're like, where's my return? And it's like, you'll see the return over 6 months. It may not be physical
Yeah.
money return, but it is branding return. It's having you come up on Google, first because you have now worked on your SEO, your keywords, you're getting reviews in. So like
Hmm.
those building blocks help you build that foundation.
Yeah, I think you touched on a point there. We're going talking about SEO and branding and social media and all these little touchstones, and I think they are building blocks, right? All together, they make this just monster of a firm,
Right.
which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes time to build them together.
Absolutely.
I have a friend that works in SEO. He gives the companies he works with. He says 6 months.
Yeah, 6
He
months.
says
to
you're not
12.
going to see anything for 6 months,
Yep.
and then after that, you're going to start seeing a return.
Yep.
Yeah, not to mention these companies that when they talk about branding and they talk about SEO or social media, a lot of times, they're charging them an insane amount. B, it sucks. It
Right.
just doesn't work. Even at the 6 month mark, it's just
Mm-hmm.
not working. And then they also, specifically with SEO, they'll reuse keyword mappings
Yes.
that they have for other clients without updating it for each individual client. They just copy paste,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just ridiculous. It's crazy that some law firms, they don't know any better. They go there, they get the service, they're like, oh, SEO, it's going to be so great.
Right.
You know why they do that?
Because they don't understand it.
They don't understand it, but the reason why they buy it is because of the branding.
Right.
Yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
looks great. Oh my gosh, the website looks so fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
The Instagram looks amazing. And like it's like buying a service like any other. Your firm, it needs to have solid branding,
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely.
So, starting off first and foremost, we kind of touched on this a little bit. How do you brand a law firm?
It's gonna. It takes steps to really brand a law firm. Like
Right.
from my experience and my experience just in branding, again, I like to sit down and just understand their why first, understand their goals behind what they're trying to do, and why it's even called what it's called.
Right. Right.
So for example, Law Push, like we understand what Law Push is doing. Why it's called Law Push because it's a marketing company. We're trying to push law firms to their next level.
Mm-hmm.
So it just like it kind of comes together as a synergy. So when I hear that, I'm like, okay, cool. When it comes to like logos and color schemes, like I really want to understand why you are trying to brand it or call it a certain thing, even if it's your personal name too. You know,
Yeah.
how do you want your personal name to feel? Do you want it to feel soft and welcoming? Do you want it to feel aggressive? Like there's just certain things and that you have to really understand from this person because if I just take it and do my own branding, it's my own brand.
Yeah.
So I want to understand exactly what they want to do, and then that's how we create like our logos and our color schemes and our branding assets, our branding colors, all that stuff comes into after I can understand the lawyer and what their goals are.
Right, right. And I think that speaks to a lot of marketing meetings. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
especially like with new clients, marketing meetings don't happen in the office for the most part.
No.
They happen when you're spending quality time with
Mm-hmm.
the owner or
You get to
with the
understand them.
brand manager, you know? Yeah, exactly, because you have to understand them. So
Absolutely.
like what's the first step that a lawyer could take when they're launching their law firm? What's the
Mm-hmm.
first step they take to like discover their brand? After, let's say they have the why,
Mm-hmm.
what do they do? Do they do logo? Do they do website? Do they do social media? Like, how do they start that branding process?
I would start with logos. I would start
Yeah.
with logos and just again understanding how you want to be presented out there. This is going to go online. This is going to go on your flyers. This is going to, you can even have this branded in court. There's
Yeah.
certain different things that you can use this logo for. So I'm also a simple person, so I like to just have simple logos that are straight to the point,
Hmm.
and then really understand like your branding colors and understand why your colors are like this. It
Right.
can be a red because it's more aggressive, it's more serious.
Yeah.
When people see that, they're like, okay, this person's about their business.
Hmm.
Or it can be a purple where it's more soft and inviting, and it can just be different for different practice areas. So if it's PI, it can be a red, because it's an injury. So just kind
Hmm.
of like thinking of things like that are kind of just
Right.
tipping on other psychology
Or like
too.
family law could be like purple because it's
Mm-hmm.
more invite,
More
right?
inviting
I
and
didn't
more
even think
welcoming.
about like the colors with the branding,
Mm-hmm.
changing that. Yeah.
So more like, you got your logo, you got your branding colors, and then you can start working on your website because a lot of people do want to jump the gun and go to the website, but then like how's the website going to look? How's it going to feel when this client that you're looking for or this client that you spent money on for Google to come in, you're going to spend money for leads for people to come in.
Hmm.
How are they going to perceive it? Do they automatically trust you when they see a good site, they can trust you?
Yeah.
That's just kind of how it is.
No, I mean that makes total sense. I think. What are your thoughts on like when somebody sees the brand? What are your thoughts on A/B testing or doing brand testing when you're going through a rebrand or when you're launching your brand for the first part? How do you go about that? Do you just ask customers? You just ask clients? You go, hey, do you like? Does this look good? And then how do you know you're getting the truth from them?
I'm a little different. I'm independent myself, so I
Yeah.
kind of go off of I listen to a lot of other people and I look at a lot of other competition and law firms that might be out there.
Hmm.
But otherwise, I'm gonna probably go off my best judgment from
You
what I
go off
pick up from.
vibes.
Yep, I kind of go off the vibes.
You go
You
off the
say that? Yeah, I
vibes.
go off the
Love
vibes.
that.
Well, will I? just do my research. You know,
Yeah.
there's so many different people. I always look at who's a success, who's not a success. Is it colors? Is it logos? Is it messaging? Is it practice area? Whatever it could be, and just kind of like take little tidbits of successes and failures and put that into mine.
Right.
You know, at the
Right.
end of the day, I am also an expert. I am also a lawyer because they're a lawyer. They're a lawyer. They might not be in the same practice area, but I am too. So I
Hmm.
got to trust my own judgment. I'm gonna trust my own judgment when it comes to cases, or I'm gonna trust my judgment when I do anything else. So if I
Yeah.
can just take what worked and what hasn't worked and just apply that to mine, that's kind of how I would look at it.
That makes total sense.
Yep.
Yeah. I think,
And I feel
you
like a
know,
lot of lawyers are like that because they kind of practice, or their firms are, usually them, unless they're
yeah.
actually really built out. So if I asked you, Cam, okay, should my colors be blue and yellow? And you're saying, I don't know, but I really love blue and yellow.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so it's
Exactly.
kind of hard for me to kind of go with somebody else if I may feel a certain way. But you do always take constructive criticism.
Hmm.
You always take feedback. You're not the smartest person.
Yeah.
Everybody's can work and helping themselves and improve and learn more from other people. So you just take those learnings and put your own practice on it.
I think an important aspect of that too is like, oh well, my favorite color is I'm in such a habit of picking matching colors. Let me think.
Come on,
Like,
man.
uh, my favorite color is I really like brown and pink. They're my
Okay.
favorite colors.
Right.
I'm gonna put them in my logo. I think it's important to understand like the relationship of colors too
I
when
agree.
you put them in. Right, right. Are you doing blue and gold, or are you doing yellow and red's fantastic. Yellow and blue works too.
Hmm.
I think just because you like it doesn't mean it's the best.
This is true.
Yeah, and,
This is
and
true.
you have to kind of reach out to people, and there's people that'll do free consultations too. I mean, we do free consultations.
That's true.
We'll look at social media, do a website audit, do all of that stuff, just so you know where you stand as far as what it looks like from an outsider's perspective.
Right.
And I mean, you can always say no. You can always say no. You can
Right.
get the do the evaluation or what have you, and then you can go, okay, I don't agree. And then like, what don't you agree on? And you
Right.
can get really macro with that. And I think that's super interesting. But yeah, delegating or doing your own research is super important.
Right.
I don't think any lawyer should be afraid to copy, right?
Hmm.
I think copying is the highest form of creativity. I mean, really, just pull a little from here, a little
Yep.
from there,
Look,
and then pretty soon you have your own thing, and it's the
exactly.
best thing ever.
Exactly.
So, like, I would recommend some firms to pick some other firms or pick some brands that you really like, and pick them apart and go, oh, well, I like this part of that.
Right.
I like this part of them, and then put them together into this amalgamation of something that's semi decent that's
Right.
gonna work, right? And then pretty soon you'll have something there where people look at it and they go, whoa. you
And
know
and going through those consultations and stuff, especially for a lawyer, again, they just want a lawyer.
yeah.
So when they have somebody that's like, oh, we would think these colors would go well, that might just even give them motivation to do it and doing more research themselves. Because they're like,
Right.
okay, cool. Now, like, okay, it makes sense how to do this. Because a lot of people they just don't know how to do the digital stuff.
Yeah.
Especially,
Yeah.
it's an older generation, so they're
Hmm.
more, again, just looking to work
Yeah.
rather than really worrying about the computer. They're like, I've been doing this for 25 years without it. And one thing that we do really well is like we allow them to like express how they feel, allow
Hmm.
them we understand this is how it is, but you also got to adjust
Yeah.
if you want to keep it going.
Well,
So,
I think what's really interesting, I was talking to one of our clients the other day. I
hmm.
won't say who, but one of our clients, and he's a younger lawyer, and he inherited all the clients from his past firm. He inherited them all to
Hmm.
his now new firm. His mentor and the founding partner had retired or what have you, so he took over. And
Gotcha.
we're sitting there and I'm talking to him about these clients, and he's like, well, they're all 50, 60, 70 years old. And I'm going, well, how long do you want the law firm around?
Right.
I mean, once you're getting up there, and then you gotta start modulating and changing you gotta start branding.
That's true.
You just got to,
Gotcha.
Gen Z, they capture it. All of them do. We were talking about logos earlier, and I think a really interesting thing that a lot of lawyers don't think about are like responsive logos. So I'll show you a couple here. We got a couple options. Like obviously these are big brands: Coca-Cola, Chanel, Disney, Heineken. But when we're talking about brand consistency, I think that the what's called a responsive logo really helps because it just breaks it down and everyone can recognize. I mean, when you look at the bottom row, you know what those are.
Exactly.
You know, you don't need the full logo. And I think a lot of times they overcomplicate their logos when they're making it, or they want to add things that are just not necessary when they're
Simple as
making their
more.
logos.
Simple as more. I
Yeah.
tell that to people all the time, and if you can condense your logo down to just one letter and somebody just knows what it is as soon as they see it, you're gonna be the first one called. But yeah, I was basically saying like, the simpler the logo, the better. Once somebody can just recognize your logo immediately, you're
Yeah.
the first person called. You're the
Yeah.
first person that's trusted.
And please stop using scales of justice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please,
Yeah,
lawyers.
those are everywhere. It's always in the beginning too. It's
Always
always like right here and then the name.
right here, and it's in a little square, and then they have the
Mhm.
name. Yeah,
Mhm.
every single brand we see, every single one. We have a couple clients of ours where we totally switched up their branding, totally switched up their logo, and it looks fantastic.
Right.
And they're like, "Wow, I'm actually getting young people to call me for personal injury cases. How did this happen?" You know?
So I have a question for you then.
Yeah.
So what do you think about lawyers putting out like the newer trending content, like the selfie videos or like, the younger generation speaking on, do you feel like do you feel like it's authentic or do you feel like it's done for ad placement to
Well,
get younger folks?
Well, obviously, like end of the day, candid, you want more clients. That's how
course.
it works, right? But I think there's a lot of lawyers that can find a passion in content creation. And honestly, on platforms like TikTok, you should be posting 3 times a day.
It's a
I know
lot.
it's a lot,
It's a lot.
but you should be whipping out your phone, just doing random things. Anytime you have an idea, posting. It's about quantity, making sure that there's a lot of post work that goes into social media, and I don't think it's necessary. I think it's when people are getting to know you, then you don't need all of that. You don't need the super high quality. You can have it every once in a while, but yeah, I don't.
I'm
think
in the
it's
middle.
necessary.
I'm in the middle. I like
How
both.
about you?
I like both.
You like both?
Yeah, I'm a big quality person, so like
Okay.
I'd rather have 12 quality posts that I
Mm-hmm.
know that I can just push stories to or like boost them or something. Because
Right.
as soon as they come to my profile, it just it looks clean.
Well,
You get trust off of
see,
cleanliness.
that brings up an interesting point because there's some lawyers, they have their law firm page and then they have
Personal
their
page.
page.
Yes.
It's JG Law and
Mhm.
then it's John George the lawyer as their personal page, and they're linked, and you know where they go.
Right.
They're both getting clients, but it's just different styles of content.
I agree.
Yeah, I think probably that's the best way to do it.
I agree with that. I agree with you on that one because
Yeah.
TikTok is a big platform that a lot of lawyers are not on. So it's
Oh
not,
no, they're not.
the code hasn't been cracked yet.
I know there's three lawyers on TikTok. There's the guy with the purple suit, and he's the criminal lawyer, and he does all the gesturing. Have you seen him?
I haven't
He's
seen
great. He's great. I'll pull it up and show you in a bit. But there's the TikTok lawyer,
Okay.
and then there's the Legal Eagle, which he's more of a YouTube personality. And
See, that's the thing. Like, do you know
yeah.
if they're a lawyer or a YouTuber?
yeah, well, hey, it doesn't really matter much. He's
That's
got
true.
what, 4 million followers? So
Yeah.
at that point, I mean, he could outsource he could just get referrals
Mhm.
for every single case he gets. He doesn't need to run a firm.
That's true.
He just get a percentage of the referrals. He doesn't need to do anything.
That's true.
So it's killer. And I tell people that too. It's like, at the end of the day, what are you after? We
Right.
want to make money.
Want to make money.
If your social media is popping off, let's do it. Let's just make some money.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. Like, I'm older so I'm like in the middle. I'm looking for more. I want authentic vibes, but then at the same time, social media is actually not making people a living. And I've always wanted to like be free. That's what I always say.
Be
Like,
free.
be at the end of the day, like whatever my career path would be, I just want to be free.
Right.
And social media gives you that freedom.
No,
You
it
know,
totally does. But I think if you run your law firm right, it can too.
Absolutely.